Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a game that many of people, including myself, were very excited about this back in the day when it was coming out last year in 2022. And it came out before the Dead Space remake, its competition. And that was a terrible, terrible decision. But it's not just that. It's a lot of things to this game that, even after the day one massacre that it got by the fans and by people who wanted to be fans like myself, it struggled and hobbled, and here we are. After all of the shit that I had to do in this game, I had to make a video to vent and rant about it. I finished it about maybe 2 weeks ago, I want to say. Decided to start up this channel and decided I would go ahead and cover it and talk about it briefly. That game is called the Callisto Protocol for PS4. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, the Day 1 edition and all of that. Now, mind you, if you got the Day 1 edition like the rest of us, or just the game on opening day, whether it was the Day 1 edition or the regular edition, no matter what you bought, you got fucked. You still got fucked, even after that Day 1, now, all this time later, in the middle of 2023, you still got fucked. Because this game came out and it was a broken mess. I'm the type that thinks it's ridiculous that we have Day 1 patches. There are assholes and clowns out there who defend this in gaming, and I think you're pathetic if you are. Now, this came out, and I tried to play it without connecting my PS4 to the internet, just because of the kind of room that it was in. It couldn't reach my Wi-Fi that easy in my house. So I said, okay, I'm just going to kind of give in and move it, because it was a broken mess. And when I finally moved it, got it connected to the internet, I had to download like a 3-hour update. I finally did all that shit. And then I got to play the Callisto Protocol. Now, of course, as I said, this is competition with the Dead Space remake. Came out before the Dead Space remake from the creator of Dead Space. How weird is that? I think his name is Glenn Schofield, I believe is his name, or Schofield. I think it's Schofield, though. Now, Glenn Schofield created Dead Space, and I think after the first or second game, he was gone. Maybe after part 3, I don't know. But my history of Dead Space is that I love the original game. I think 2 is really, really good, if not a little bit more action-focused than horror-focused, but it still has a lot of great horror elements. I always remember the daycare scene. But then you had 3, which was focused around multiplayer co-op online shit, but it wasn't online only. You could still play as Isaac, you could still do what you needed to do, but it was fucking bad. Really bad. I played through maybe the first 2 missions of the game and then I quit. Maybe the first chapter of the game, something like that, and I just quit and I sold off my copy. Last year in Tennessee, I went on vacation with my wife, and I bought a new copy of it, and I plan on playing it at some point. But that's kind of my history of Dead Space. I've been let down for a very, very long time. And here I am, hoping when this trailer dropped for Callisto Protocol, that we would get another really good game, even though it looked like a knockoff Dead Space, and it totally 1000% is. I was hoping for something better, maybe better twists than Dead Space had, which I think Dead Space has some pretty cool twists. I was hoping for something better, something that could be a modern-day survival horror classic. A lot of people were looking at it as just a horror third-person shooter, like Gears of War, like Dead Space, but survival horror is really a specific thing. Dead Space falls into that category of survival horror. Silent Hill, Resident Evil. You're low on ammo, you're walking through dark corridors, you're getting sound effects thrown at you that can make you worry about what's behind you, what's in front of you even. But mainly what's behind you. The atmosphere is supposed to be fun and tense and scary and thrilling at the same time. Some games would eventually let you, like Dead Space 2, have enough ammo that you could feel fairly comfortable, but still scared. You know what I mean? Some games, like some of the Silent Hill games, don't give you the best ammo ever. You have to beat shit with a fucking steel pipe, you know what I mean? And that was fine, that was fair, and I love that. I grew up on survival horror games. Specifically Silent Hill. Not so much Resident Evil, but mainly Silent Hill. And I love it and I don't regret it. I looked at this as being a survival horror game, and at the end of the day, it's more in common with the things I mentioned as traits of survival horror than something like Dead Space, even though I consider that to be survival horror. Callisto Protocol is a massive disappointment, not only because of the Day 1 release, which this is one of the few games in recent years that I bought on Day 1 for $60. This, what else was there? Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. That's it. Those 2 games. That's really it. Everything else I've been buying in the last year, or less than a year even, have been used games. But let me tell you, I wanted to love this. And let me tell you, it's beautiful looking. Before I even get to the story, it is a gorgeous, beautiful looking game, especially on PS5 and all of that. And yet, this sucks so bad. There are no words to say to you to really fix it. It's a beautiful game, but everything from the gameplay to the design, it just sucks ass. There are some really good choices, and then there are really, really poor choices left and right. It's a mishmash. It's like going to the beach but finding out that the water has shit in it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like. Anyway, the Callisto Protocol, what is this game about? Well, again, it's kind of a zombie virus in space game, just like the other game that Glenn Schofield started and created, called Dead Space. And this one is less gun-focused until probably the third act of the story. Most of it is melee combat, which, again, is very common for survival horror. But let me tell you, I don't really think that if you're going to focus on melee combat, that it should be assigned to the R2 button, the trigger button, on the right side of the controller on PS4. I think that was a terrible choice. It should have been the square button, or even the circle button like some of the Silent Hill games on PS2. It should have been something like that to be more comfortable, and then when you get guns in the game, use the R2 to shoot. You know, back in the day, people forget that Call of Duty games for PS4, PS3 used to have the option, essentially when you started the game up, of having to shoot with R1 on the controller, which was, you know, not comfortable to me coming from Xbox 360 at the time. But they eventually changed up. They adopted the idea of using the triggers and so on and so on. This game is essentially following Josh Duhamel, the guy from Transformers, the guy from a lot of little projects here and there that I really like. I think Josh Duhamel doesn't have the best range ever as an actor, but I think he's good for here. I think he's probably putting his best performance ever in his career in this movie, or this game, I mean. But I like the guy. He's one of those people like Sam Jackson, Denzel Washington, that it's not really they have a whole lot of range as an actor. It's that you like watching that person do what they do. They're really fun. They're engaging. That's what I liked about the Callisto Protocol with Josh Duhamel being our lead that we play as. Anyway, I don't remember his name. I couldn't give less of a shit now because you don't really know anything about the guy. Even as the game goes on, you don't know anything about him. He's essentially a pilot, and he and his co-pilot crash on this planet that's like a kind of a prison planet, if you will, when they get boarded by some random Asian lady that was in the prologue of the game. And when this crashes and basically burns, the people that they meet, well, the co-pilot dies, but Josh Duhamel is alive. He's held captive and put into prison, and he doesn't know why. No one will tell him what he did. If it was trespassing, whatever they found on the ship, supposedly. They don't know if the Asian lady who boarded their ship is like part of this group or not. Apparently she's not. By the way, she's from Suicide Squad. She played Katana, and she is really good here, and she's really good there. Now, Josh gets locked away, and eventually a zombie virus breaks out like 2 minutes after he gets arrested and thrown in jail with his orange jumpsuit and everything. Now, if it sounds boring, it's because it is. It sounds like a cool concept setup, prison break type of thing. If you love prison movies, that could totally be up your alley, but it's not really like that. It reminds me too much of like Alien 3. I think it's supposed to be partially inspired by that. But being focused on melee combat, they have a dodge button. Do you want to guess what the fucking dodge button in this game is? Now, from the monsters that are kind of designed well, I don't hate the design of the monsters. I actually think they're pretty scary. The biggest fear in this game, by the way, is the big robot, like security guards. Those things scare the shit out of me. You can't kill them, and they're a one-hit kill on you. But do you know what the scariest thing about this game is? Is that dodge button I'm talking about. The dodge button is your left joystick, and you don't click it. You have to wait for somebody to swing at you in the same repetitive pattern. Every single fight that you have in this game is a repetitive fight. And if you get ganged up, it's like impossible to try to do this in the correct way without taking damage. I took so much damage in this game, dude, and health is not very constant in the game either. I had to replay so many sections over and over again because of this bullshit with this repetitive fighting that took me a while to catch on to, by the way. But you have to, like, hit your joystick left and right as they swing. And it's not as fast as you would think either. You have a very distinct pattern you have to get used to. But again, if you get in a fight with like 3 or 4 people and they flank your ass and there's no way to run away because your character runs so slow, you're fucked. You are completely fucked. You are stuck in the middle of a hallway, a tight-ass hallway, because most of the hallways are very narrow in this game, being on a spaceship or planet or whatever the fuck this is. It is so irritating. It is so irritating. You don't realize how bad the boss battles are in this game. There's a few boss fights. People kept saying there was like one in the whole game. Shut the fuck up. You're fucking lying. There's quite a few boss fights. It's not that they're complex to do. It's just you have to be able to survive long enough and have enough ammo to be able to pull the shit off. It is so irritatingly difficult to the point where I was ready to throw my fist through my TV on the final fight of the game, the one that ends the game. It was ridiculous. There's one involving a platformer that's moving while you're standing on this platform, transporting you from one side of the ship, planet, whatever the fuck this jail cell is, to the other side, and that was extremely aggravating. But it does all of that irritating shit in a beautiful fashion because of how beautiful the graphics are. And I would even say the music is really good in the game too. I really dug that. One choice that was very surprising to me, I remember in Dead Space, you had, like, I think you pushed down one of the joysticks and it would bring up the waypoint on where you could go, and you would see a line show up on the ground telling Isaac where to go. In this game, there's no map. There's no map, so you have to kind of just go through empty hallway after empty hallway to track down where you need to go. If you need to climb up some ladders, if it looks like a place you might be able to lead to somewhere else, you got to take the risk, you know, while encountering these punk-ass zombies over and over again with little ammo, little health. By the way, the guns don't even shoot that well in this game. I don't like them almost at all. But no map was a very interesting choice to me. Not that it needs it. With the game design you have here, it's very intuitive. You very much know where you need to go. It's just a matter of, this game gives you fake tension. And I realized that after I finished the game about 2 weeks ago, that I would have this anxiety about coming back to the game. It's not because it was really scary. It's really not. It's just kind of jump scare after jump scare. More of what my irritation was and my anxiety that was based on was the idea that I have to go back into this, deal with a story that I'm not enjoying, because once you get past the prison portion and the zombie virus thing, that when you find out what that's about, it's even more stupid. If this gets a sequel, by the way, I would be shocked because of how bad the reviews were, how bad the reviews still are from a small percentage of the audience that still like it. They still complete the idea and complain about the idea of the flaws that we all talked about, that we all hate about this shit. And I wanted to be a fan of this too, but I'm not. But I'm not. What a waste of $60. Anyway, this game has too many problems. Too many problems. Like, it's, to me, an insult to put this out and almost get butthurt that the fans expected more out of you. This clearly was not finished before it was released. This was the greatest example ever of a day one patch game that shows why it's a bad idea and why it's a bad thing and you shouldn't have that. As well as like the new Call of Duties. When you buy a Call of Duty that's 2 years old, you have the day one patch and every update that hit ever since then. It's like a 5-hour update every time. It's ridiculous. But the Callisto Protocol is insulting. I love the no map thing. I think the level design is very good. But it's everything else. You know, there's some good things, though. Sam Witwer, who plays Darth Maul on Star Wars, Rebels, and what's the other one? Clone Wars. He's in this. He played Star Killer on the Force Unleashed video games, by the way. Sam Witwer is a hell of an actor. And they gave him fucking basically nothing to play with in this game as the antagonist, too. So it's kind of surprising. They really dropped the ball on this game. And again, when you get to the finale and start finding out why all of this is happening, what's happening, then you get to the shitty ending you get in the last, 5 minutes of the game. All of the jump scares, all of that shit. All of this beauty of this game, and the good sound design even, by the way. Has good sound design, I forgot to mention. All of those things with shitty controls, shitty gameplay, shitty everything, basically, aside from the few things I mentioned, it's insulting. And if you paid $60 for this game when it first came out, or even $70 for, the PS5 version, I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you, I feel bad for me, I feel bad for all of us, because this is some garbage, basically. When it comes to the Callisto Protocol on PS4, again, it has a very few slim positives about it, but everything else, dude, if this was... There's no other word to call this. It's a fucking disappointment. It's one of the biggest gaming disappointments I've ever had in my life, and I'm so sad to say that, because I really wanted to love this, and I really wanted to enjoy it and be able to get on here one day, when I started playing this last year, I wanted to sit down at some point and tell you that all of the garbage shit, like using the left joystick to dodge enemies fighting and strikes at you and stuff, that all of that would be worth it to get a really good story, or a really good game, or really good guns. No. I don't have any of that to say. Not at all. Anyway, have you played the Callisto Protocol? What did you think about it, especially if you're a big Dead Space fan like myself? I would love to hear what you have to say about it down in the comment section down below. It seems to me that I don't even need to ask this question, but what won this war? Callisto Protocol or the Dead Space remake? I think it's very clear by critical stance, by audience stance, by execution. The Dead Space remake is probably a billion times better, even though I haven't played it yet. But yeah, the Callisto Protocol seemed to have basically no issues on the PS5. And I think it came out on Xbox too. I don't know. The newest Xbox. Series S, X, whatever it's called. But it seems to perform better there. Like, you don't really have as many issues. So if I had to recommend it, get it on discount for that console if you can. Wait until it's like $20, then you won't feel as gypped as I felt. But even with all that being said, what did you think about the Callisto Protocol? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Like I said, please put all that down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you all have to say about it. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Don't pick up this piece of shit unless it's dirt-ass cheap. God bless you, and goodbye.